In a Fox 23 follow-up, a man we told you several months ago was fighting to save his retirement house from being torn down by the Army Corps of Engineers says they're still trying to take part of his property.
Fox 23 Spencer Humphrey tells us what that man says the Corps is demanding of him now after backing off their first request.
Back in December, I told you Vietnam veteran Cole Wheeler planned to spend the rest of his life enjoying retirement from his cabin atop Lake Eufaula that he's called home for over 13 years.
The fat lady has sung. All I want to do is look at this gorgeous view and enjoy the peace.
But that all changed when he asked the Army Corps of Engineers why they let a neighbor install a dock right next to his property, blocking part of his view. After that, the Corps sent him a letter ordering him to tear down his decades-old house because it was apparently partially built on Corps property.
The above-mentioned encroachments must be removed by December 15th.
After my first story aired, Senator James Langford's office stepped in, telling us they believe that was an absurd request by the Corps.
He is not going to have to tear down his house.
And that did get the Corps to back off their demands to tear down his house. So Wheeler was surprised when he got this letter in February. It told him the Corps decided to let him keep his house, but he'd need to buy back the backside of his property from them.
They're going to grandfather in, more or less, the cabin itself, yet the decks and the deck we're standing on are still an issue. They have offered to sell it to us for the sum of $20,000.
That's money Wheeler says he'd possibly have to take out a second mortgage to afford.
I made him a counteroffer of $1 if and only if they move that dock out of my backyard.
He says the Corps told him that dock was in a proper spot, more than 300 feet from the nearest boat ramp. But when I visited Wheeler back in December, I watched as he and his wife measured that distance. It came up about 20 feet short. He paid a surveyor to measure it as well, and that surveyor found the same thing. Complicating things more, he says the owner of that dock recently built a road through Corps property.
You can see what a nice road this is. Lined with rocks.
He showed me pictures of trucks and golf carts regularly using that road to get to and from that dock. Again, it's all on Corps property. His wife Kim asked the Corps if that was all legal.
They were very shocked and said no.
But that road is still there with no apparent pushback from the Corps. So is that dock. They can't help but feel targeted.
If the Corps is going to enforce their rules, they need to enforce them fairly to everybody. They don't need to make bend one rule for one person and not the other.
The Corps Lake Manager, who is a civil servant and bureaucrat, has more power than a duly elected United States Senator or Congressman.
I called up that lake manager, Gerald Treadwell. He told me he didn't want to answer my questions and I would need to talk to the Corps' public information officer. Now, that public information officer gave me a statement that said, in part, quote, "Since this is an ongoing matter, no further information can be provided at this time. However, please understand this matter and other encroachments brought to our attention are taken seriously."
I am backed up against the wall. I didn't declare this war. They declared it on me.
It's a war Wheeler says he still intends to win at all costs.
I didn't volunteer for it. 50 years ago, I volunteered for a tour of duty. That was a job. This is far worse because this is personal.
At Lake Eufaula, covering news that matters, Spencer Humphrey, Fox 23 News.